Hey, what's up? This is AP, and today I'm going to be doing something that I've not done, at least in public, for a long, long time. Most of you may already know that I'm a public speaker, and I've been a public speaker for more than 10 years. I was involved with Toastmasters back in Singapore and also in Myanmar, Yangon. So I've done a bit of reviews on TED speeches which were delivered in Myanmar and also some other speeches, Toastmaster speeches online. And today I want to share with you how I listen to a speech. And I want you to learn a bit about what it really means to listen well as a public speaker. Because one of the most important skills a public speaker or someone who wants to be a good public speaker must have is a listening ability or listening skills. Because once you can listen to a speech, you need to understand, you need to be able to dissect the speech to understand what are the techniques that the speaker uses so that you understand how the speech was developed, how the content was developed, and how the delivery was efficient and effective. So this is I will be doing live, and let's look at one of my favorite TED talks of all time. This talk is only about 4 minutes long, but the speaker uses various and very effective public speaking techniques and a lot of rhetorical devices. So let's watch together, and I will pause at some moments where we can do a bit of reviews, and I will share with you what are the techniques that the speaker uses so that it makes his speech more likable. It makes him more likable to the audiences and also memorable. Okay, I'll share my screen with you and let's go in details. Let's take a journey. Okay, as you can see, this speech is only about 4 minutes long, but I really like the speech. Maybe some of you already seen it. The trick or the important thing is if you listen to a speech or if you listen to a speaker and you like it, you don't know why, but the speaker appealed to you and the content appealed to you. You felt touched by the speaker, and there are techniques to it. And once you become more technical with public speaking, once you gain more knowledge and once you understand the tricks and the tips, then you'll be able to replicate it yourself. Okay, let's go.
Back in New York, I am the head of development for a nonprofit called Robin Hood. When I'm not fighting poverty, I'm fighting fires as the assistant captain of a volunteer fire company.
So his introduction was very simple and very direct. In most of our public speaking trainings and courses, they teach you start with a question, you start with a story, you start with a joke and stuff like that. But as you can see, in his opening or in his introduction, he went straight to the story, or he went straight to the meat of the speech. As you can see, and his first sentence, in his first sentence, we already get to know him and understand him because he explained what he did and what he did as a profession and what he did on the side. We know that he's the development business development of this nonprofit called Robin Hood, and at the same time, he is a volunteer firefighter. Here, the important thing that the trick that he used was his attire or his uniform, the dress that he wore. As you can see clearly, he is wearing a firefighter uniform, and it highlights what he is about and what he's going to share. Okay, so it is really effective opening, and it's not gimmicky, and it is not over the top. It was just nice, and I really like this kind of speakers who doesn't put a lot of makeup on in the opening, and put a lot of not important stuff in the beginning. So let's continue watching it.
Now, in our town, where the volunteers supplement a highly skilled career staff, you have to get to the fire scene pretty early to get in on any action. I remember my first fire. I was the second volunteer on the scene, so there was a pretty good chance I was going to get in. But still, it was a real foot race against the other volunteers to get to the captain in charge to find out what our assignments would be. When I found the captain, he was having a very engaging conversation with the homeowner, who was surely having one of the worst days of her life.
I want to stop here and explain some of the techniques that he uses. So you can see that he was very comfortable and he was very conversational. You don't feel like he's reading a script or you don't feel like he's giving you a speech. He's simply sharing a story with us. And I think this is very important. One very important thing that most of us miss when we are delivering speeches or when we are doing presentations. Public speaking is not so much about public speaking. What is more important, what is the more difficult skill to acquire is the storytelling skills. As you can see, he is telling us a story. So don't try too hard to be a public speaker, a good public speaker. First, try your best to become a good storyteller. That's the beginning. That's the most important essence of becoming a good speaker and a good presenter. It doesn't matter if you are a CEO, it doesn't matter you are an academic, because I have coached both CEOs, academics, in delivering their business speeches and even some conference speeches. And the most important thing is about delivering a story which has a message that add values to your audience. And also another thing that you might notice was his body language. When he was saying you need to race down to the side so that you could get into the action. So he was like showing that the running motion. So, and also he was also turning, because the so-called the stage is like, I think 180, not more than 180-degree stage. It's like 270-degree stage. So you're not just the audience is not just in front of you. The audiences are sitting on your right and on your left. So he was turning around and engaging other audiences, both from the left and to the right. Okay, let's continue.
Here it was, the middle of the night. She was standing outside in the pouring rain, under an umbrella, in her pajamas, barefoot, while her house was in flames.
Here, he gave a description, a very vivid description about what was happening to the homeowner. You can see it's just simple sentence, but he adds the right details. Sometimes you don't have to add too much details, which doesn't add to the picture or to the story that you're telling. In his speech or in the sentence he spoke, he used or he gave us enough details so that we could imagine what was happening. He said it was raining, the homeowner was in pajamas, she was carrying an umbrella, and it was the worst day of her life because the house her house was on fire. Okay, so you don't have to use a lot of words, a lot of big words. It is important. You have to be. One of my mentor once told me that if you want to be a really good public speaker, you have to be stingy with words. That means like you don't stingy with words means if you can use 5 words to describe something vividly, use 5 words. Don't add it up to make it into like 10 words or 20 words. When we are doing projects or when we are doing reports, we tend to write bigger and longer because we want to fill up the number of words that we want to complete in the report. But in public speaking, the more not important words you put in, your speech is becoming less interesting and too bulky. Yeah, it is not very nice for the audience. So the most important thing is hit it hard and make sure you are stingy with your words. And one of the most important lessons I learned as a public speaker was a great speech is not something when you cannot add anything to it. Okay, this is one of my very, very early mentor spoke to me or told me about it. Okay, he said, a great speech is not when something cannot be added to it. It can always be added. A speech can always be added things on it, more details, more stuff. But that's not a great speech. A great speech is when nothing can be taken out from a speech. If you take something out, then you lost your story. That is a great speech. So you have to write the content or you have to write the script so that nothing else can be taken away from it, and you then you know that you have a great speech. If you know, if you think, oh, if I take out this sentence or if I take out these words, nothing happens. That means that you don't have this, fit or really strong script yet. So you have to be stingy with words and make sure if you want a great speech, you have to do a lot of edits. You have to do a lot of taking up, deleting speeches. You have to rewrite again and again and again. Okay, so let's continue.
The other volunteer who had arrived just before me, let's call him Lex Luthor.
Okay, so you might be quite annoyed because I paused the video a lot of times. But what I want you to get is I want you to see he got a laughter at the end of this before I pause it, right? And this for this to be funny, you need to understand a bit about the context he is speaking in. He said there was somebody who arrived before him, right? And he said, let's call him Lex Luthor. If you have watched Superman, you know that Lex Luthor is the bad guy. So he's basically saying somebody who came before him as the bad guy because he is going to be given assignment or he is going to be treated better than him because he was late. So yeah, that's why people laughed. So sometimes when we listen to speeches, we want to make it funny. We want to get the audience laugh, and it's not about saying a dirty joke or saying something that is you put a joke in. So that's not about it. A real humor is about having organic material. So in this case, he didn't bring a joke from somewhere else and put it into speech. It is part of his speech. So from by saying that, what he shows is that he doesn't really like the guy who came before him or who arrived before him, and let's call him Lex Luthor, right? Okay, so that's why you see that there was a reaction from the audience. The audience laughed by showing that they understood what he meant.
Got to the captain first and was asked to go inside and save the homeowner's dog. The dog. Oh, I was stunned with jealousy. Here was some lawyer or money manager who, for the rest of his life, gets to tell people that he went into a burning building to save a living creature.
Here, and the most interesting thing that he used was his body language. He said that the captain, the fire captain, told the guy who came before him to go inside the house and save the dog. And he said, so that means that he was jealous. He said it, right. He said jealous because this guy, probably the other guy, was also a volunteer firefighter. That means he's not a real firefighter, but he had some kind of job, and that some kind of job is a money manager or banker. That means like somebody who has who is rich and who already has some status, and that guy has a chance right now to go inside a burning building and save a dog, and then after that he could uh, boast about it. He could tell everybody that how brave he was, and he was able to go inside and save a living creatures. So that's also another very very good facial expression and body language that he used.
Just because he beat me by 5 seconds. Well, I was next. The captain waved me over. Said, Bezos, I need you to go into the house. I need you to go upstairs, past the fire, and I need you to get this woman a pair of shoes.
So over here, he used contrast. So the first guy, the first volunteer who came before him, who was earlier than him by 5 seconds, was given the assignment to save the dog. But for him, he was asked to get a pair of slippers. Can you see the difference? That he used somebody is so much more significant and so much more important to save a life than to get a pair of shoes. That means so he did not really like what he was asked to do. So that was showing a contrast. something very important and something not very important. And you can also see the body language that he used. He is not very excessive with his body language, but he said when the captain asked him to come over, so you can see that he used hand gestures to show his story or to tell his story. Okay, let's continue.
I swear. So, not exactly what I was hoping for, but off I went. Up the stairs, down the hall, past the real firefighters who were pretty much done putting out the fire at this point, into the master bedroom to get a pair of shoes. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I'm no hero.
So here again he get a lot of laughter because he was saying that I'm no hero. That means like he is saying that he is he is putting the words in the audience mouth or in the audience mind that the audience may think he's a hero, right? But he said he's trying to be humble with a show off kind of attitude. So and again you can see his clear use of body language. You say the real firefighter, the fire has already gone, and I mean the fire has already been put out by the real firefighter, and these guys himself are just volunteer firefighters, so they don't really get a chance to go in and put out the real fire. So they do other kind of volunteer work, and they do other kind of giving a helping hands. And he went inside and got a pair of slippers for the house owner.
I carried my payload back.
This is very important. He said he purposely, at least I think, he purposely used the word payload. You have to notice, okay, you have to understand this. Payload means something important. Okay, when we use this word when we describe like when a fighter jet carry the payload, that means like carrying bombs and rockets and stuff like that. Okay, so he was supposed to get a pair of slippers. He got a pair of slippers, and he is not very happy about it because to him that's insignificant. But at least he tried to think up, at least in his mind it is something very important. Okay, that's why I think he purposely used the word payload.
Downstairs where I met my nemesis and the precious dog by the front door. We took our treasures outside to the homeowner, where, not surprisingly, his received much more attention than that did mine.
Again, you can see the first volunteer came down with the dog, and he came down with a pair of slippers. And again, he used the word treasures to highlight again that what they did was more important than what it was supposed to be. So anyway, you can see the words, the selection of words is very important when you're telling a story. And whether you want to tell a story with sarcasm, or whether you want to, make it more important or make it sound jealous. So as you can see, he was very, very, very emotional. He used a lot of what we call pathos, like connect the audience with a lot of emotions, not so much of logos. That means like not so much of critical thinking, but it's more about storytelling and conveying emotions.
A few weeks later, the department received a letter from the homeowner thanking us for the valiant effort displayed in saving her home. The act of kindness she noted above all others. Someone had even gotten her a pair of shoes.
So this is the last part of the story. It says that a few weeks later, the homeowner wrote a thank you letter to the fire station, saying they have helped her, and the important thing that she highlighted was they even got her a pair of shoes. So that means that even though he thought that what he did was very, very, very minuscule, like not important, but at least the homeowner noticed it and appreciated it. Now he's going to transition into the lesson part of the story, or what we call it, the moral of the story. So he told us a story, an interesting and a funny story, but he's not telling this story just for entertainment purpose. he's going to switch into the moral of the story. And this is very important because most of the time when we say, we tell our people or we tell our audiences, you should do this, you should do that, we tell them what they should do, then after that we tell them why we should do it, which is the wrong order of arrangement. If we want people to change the mindset or we want them to persuade them, we don't have to tell them you have to do this and that first. You have to give them a story or a situation or an experience you have. Then pull that, use that experience or use that story and pull the moral of the out of the story. That's why I said in the beginning, being able to tell a good story is very important. And once you can tell a good story, and that story has a value that you could take it out and highlight it to your listeners, then you have attention of the listeners, you have the emotional engagement of the listeners, and the message that you want to give them will stay with them longer. Now let's listen to the more of the story that he's going to give us.
In both my vocation at Robin Hood and my avocation as a volunteer firefighter, I am witness to acts of generosity and kindness on a monumental scale. But I'm also witness to acts of grace and courage on an individual basis.
Again, he used the contrast, monumental skill. That means like people have been kind, they have been donating millions of dollars. That means a big thing. But then also again, he also seen, what he says, small appreciation, small kindness done between people. So it's a contrast between something big and important and something small and not so important.
And you know what I've learned? They all matter.
This is the most important part. It says they all matter. It doesn't matter it is if you are doing something big or something small. What is important is that doing the act of helping each other, being kind to each other, they all matter. Even though he thought that getting a pair of shoes wasn't important, but it mattered to the homeowner because she felt appreciated, she felt taken care of, and she felt that somebody, pay attention and somebody was kind to her.
So as I look around this room at people who either have achieved or are on their way to achieving remarkable levels of success, I would offer this reminder. Don't wait. Don't wait until you make your first million to make a difference in somebody's life. If you have something to give it now.
You see, now he is pulling the moral message out of his story. The most important message is don't wait. Okay? It doesn't matter you are a millionaire or it doesn't matter how much you have, give it. No matter how poor, no matter how bad your situation is, you always have something to give and something to contribute to somebody else. Okay, so that's his whole message. Don't wait. You don't wait until you become a manager or owner or become successful. We all could give something to somebody right now. That's his message.
Serve food at a soup kitchen, clean up a neighborhood park, be a mentor. Not every day is going to offer us a chance to save somebody's life, but every day offers us an opportunity to affect one.
That's the most beautiful line of his whole speech. It says, not every day is going to offer us a chance to save somebody's life. It's true, but every day you have a chance to affect one. That means every day we could choose to help somebody and change that somebody's life. We may not be saving a life, but we could change life by acting right now. So this is the most, that's what we call the through line of his story. That means like that's the summary, one sentence summary of his whole speech. If in the beginning he said this message or he said this more to the audience might say, "Whoa, we have heard this before, and it wouldn't have come out strong." But because of the story that he gave us, the story that he told us, the message become much more, you know, we could see the message clearly. Okay, and he also gave example of if you, there's all these things you can do, like you could serve soup at the kitchen. That means like for the homeless people you could serve, doing something. You could clean up your park, neighborhood park, So, or be a mentor. That means like you help somebody, even kids, students, whatever. There are always things for individual or for us to help each other out.
So get in the game. Save the shoes. Thank you.
As you can see, he got a standing ovation, and in the end, he closed the loop. We call it in public speaking and in script writing, we call it closing the loop. He closed the loop by saying the last sentence, which is save the shoes. It refer, of course, we understood what he meant. He told us a story, he gave us a moral or the message. Then after that, he linked it back to the story that he told by. Because in the story, the key thing, the main thing he did was saving the shoes. That's why in the last sentence, he said, don't wait and go in and do something and save the shoes. So you can see that it was, and in fact, not even 4 minute speech, it is less than 4 minutes. So, but it was really effective. One thing is effective because it was a story and he wasn't like, trying to impress us or teach us. So he was very conversational, he was very likable, he was smiling, he was, giving attention to all the audiences, and also he was very genuine. Okay, and he told us a story where he put himself down. No listener or no audience likes people or the speaker who think very highly of himself, or who think that they are better than better than the listener or the audience. In this story, he spoke in such a way that he put himself down. Okay, he made fun of himself, he made fun of what he had to do. But he was in public speaking, we call it, he was a giving or a giver kind of speaker. Some speakers, they want to take from the audience, but he was a giver. uh, an example of some speaker who are takers are like, they try to promote themselves, they try to say, or they try to show that they have done great things and they have achieved so much and they are better than the listeners. But this guy, the Mark Bezos, you could clearly see that he was not doing that, and he was not trying to sell himself. He was in fact telling us a funny story about how he had to do something not very important, but at the end of the day, there was a good message that comes with the story. So what I want you to get from this short speech review is that public speaking is a lot is about storytelling, and the stories are always around us. Okay, and you have, that's why it is important for us to be very, open our eyes and very receptive of what's happened to us and what happens in our neighborhood, what happens in our workplaces, where if there is a good story, make sure to write it down and keep it a diary or database of stories that happens to you. Then you could use those stories to give the message. Always story comes first, then the message. Okay, so even if you are a CEO, even if you are MD or whoever, if you want to be listened to and if you want people to enjoy your speech, storytelling is one of the most important skills a good public speaker needs to master. So that's all for now, and I'll be doing more review videos like that, and I'm sure you'll like it. So next speeches will be longer because I'm for this speech, for this review, I'm using a very short speech so that you get to understand the way I listen to speeches and the way you dissect the speech, so that you can understand and pick up some of the very good, techniques and tips that that the speakers use. So that's all for now. Cheers, and my name is AP. Bye.